Welcome back to Basic Language Learning, getting to know the different elements of a sentence. Today we'll be doing Lesson 3, Phrases and Clauses. When we're done with this lesson, you should know what a phrase is, know what a clause is, and you should be able to identify them in a sentence. So let's start with what a clause is. A clause consists of a noun and a verb, or a noun group and a verb group. But for now, just remember that it consists of a noun and a verb. And then what is a phrase? A phrase does not have both a subject and a verb. So one of those things is not there. And it only acts as a single part of speech. So it either acts as a noun or a noun phrase, or a verb phrase. It can't be more than one thing. So let's look at an example of a clause. You have independent, which can stand on its own. For example, I am walking. That's a complete sentence. It has a subject, a verb. We went out. Again, same story. It has both a subject and a verb. Now we have dependent. A dependent clause cannot stand on its own. It needs an independent clause to function. For example, although I was late, whatever you decide, they have a subject and a verb, but they cannot function as their own in a sentence. Now let's look at an example of a phrase. So remember we said a phrase functions as a part of speech. Here is a sentence. I want you to pause this video and see if you can identify the phrase. Right, so we're back. I hope you looked at both of the sentences and you tried to identify the phrase in them. The kids on the bus would be our noun phrase. And then in the second sentence, Vivian and John would be our noun phrase. Now, I want you to break down a sentence into phrases and clauses. And I want you to try and use all of the knowledge you have learned so far. So I want you to look at the sentence, write it down, pause this video, and then play when you are ready to give me the phrases and the clauses. Right, so we're back. I hope you took the time to pause this video and identify the different phrases and clauses. First of all, we start with a dependent clause. How do we know it's a clause? Because there is a subject and a verb. It's dependent though, because it cannot stand as its own sentence. Then we have an independent clause following that. We know it's independent because if we chopped everything else off, the car guard helped us load everything into the car would be its own sentence. That's how it's independent. And there is a subject, a verb, and an object. Remember, we only need a subject and a verb for it to be a clause. But now we need a phrase. So the car guard is our noun phrase. Phrase because it's more than one word. A noun because it names a person, a place, or a thing. The verb phrase helped us load. That whole phrase is a verb phrase. It is what we are currently doing. And then into the car is the prepositional phrase. Into showing position, the car showing where we are loading everything into. Right. Now, I want you to try a few examples by yourself. And I want you to write these down and do them like we did the previous example. You can circle the clauses, underline the phrases, and I want you to try and name each phrase. Remember, a phrase is a part of speech, and you should by now know your parts of speech.